Kia ora tātou. My name is Atihana Johns. I whakapapa to, I live in Te Whānau Mōna Te Rorohuri as a hapu. May it please the tribunal. My name is Atihana Johns. I'm a retired teacher and lecturer in education and Māori. I was a foundation member and trustee of the Ngati Marae Ahu Whenua Trust and the Ngati Marae Reservation 339 Trust. The former organisation established a pine forest on Karikati, Whakapauak and Whatiwhiwhi lands. The latter was at the request of Ngati Kahu Runanga to establish a legal entity for the marae allocation of fishing putia. I don't know who else did likewise. I was secretary of the Ngati Kahu Trust Board prior to the setting up of the Runanga. I began to write the book Ngā Tapawai o Hine Te Wai in 2003, not only as a whānau, hapu and iwi book, but also to contribute ideas and strategies for hapu development in economics, education, health and social and cultural development. I hope to record tikanga historically and the changes made by Christianity, especially in relation to the observance of tapu. That's become an issue. I affiliate to a number of hapu, especially in Te Rarawa and Ngati Kahu, Whānui, which includes Ngati Tara, Te Rurunga. I was born and bred in the rohe of Te Whānau Moana, Te Rorohuri, so I see myself as belonging to these hapu. This is where my ukaipo, whakapapa, whānau, kāinga, hāhi, marae and kura converge. I am a kaumāti of Ngati Marae at Whatiwhiwhi and Ranginui Marae at Kenana. The first is a whānau Moana and Rorohuri Marae, but the name Ngati Marae places it firmly in Ngati Kahu as the iwi. Ngati Marae is a Ngati Kahu tupuna from whom are born many hapu of that iwi. Ranginui is a matarahurahu hapu marae. The whare is Ranginui after the tupuna that was captured by Te Serval at Waiotraire, Tokera Beach. He was Te Whānau Moana. When I can, I also act in that capacity at Kauhanga, Parapara and Kareponia. Rorohuri, beginning with Te Pari and Te Kopinga, were branch hapu as was Te Rurunga and Te Awapuni. To Hine Te Wai was attributed the mana whenua by Wirimuhani Taua. He said the mana was derived from Hine Te Wai. At the time of Hine Te Wai, Tai Tehe and Mania, they shared the land amongst them. The land of Hine Te Wai commenced from Parakerake, going along the east coast to Whakapauaka, over to Motiroa Islands, coming down the west coast to the boundary of Parakerake. That was the portion to Hine Te Wai. He also attributed the Parakerake block, which is what we call now Carrington Farms, to Te Pari and his Te Rorohuri descendants prior to its sale. By 1905, Wirimu is combining these boundaries to fit in with the Native Land Court already surveyed and titled blocks. Traditional mana whenua was not determined by surveyors, and one can assume that Hine Te Wai's traditional mana went well beyond Parakerake. For example, her son Te Rurunga's descendants of Ngati Te Rurunga lived on the whenua between Aurere and Taipa. Ngati Tara whānau claim close Te Rurunga links, as I do. Tribal and hapu boundaries, where they existed, were not arbitrary, but were landmarks known to others. More important were pā, kāinga, cultivations, mātaitai, fishing grounds, tikanga, and traditions. I'd just like to add, if I may, that Rorohuri began with Te Pari and Te Kopinga. Now, we've got that taonga inside our marae at Ngati Marae. It's a well-bone, it's supposed to be a hoi, but it looks more like a taiaha. And Rorohuri, Te Pari was out fishing at a place called Wairi, just offshore. And while he was fishing, a shark bumped his waka, and went down again. Came back, bumped it, and came down, and he did it about 5 times. Yeah, to him that was a message that he'd better follow this shark down. So he did. And when he got to the bottom, there was a rua. And inside the rua was a whalebone. So he picked it up, and he sent it to his friend Kaifare, took it down to Ngati Whātua, gave it to his friend and said, "Carve this for me, please." A year later he went back, and Kaifare, I think, tried to make some excuse. He said, "Oh, e hoa, Yahweh e whao ane I te puku, ka piki mai te roro." That means the head of the taonga. So it came up like that for him to stop whao in the middle of it. Anyway, Te Pari took it back, and we've got it in our whare. Now that's Te Rorohuri. If you've heard any other version, well. My links to Ngati Tara are intertwined in whakapapa of Ngati Kahu and Te Whānau Mona. According to Wiremu Pikahu of that hapu, my tupuna Te Hiko, father of Heta Hinaki, was a relative of his. He said so in 1877. Ngati Tara, Ngati Te Rurunga, and some of the Whānau Mona fought against Pororua on Nōpera side at Taipa in 1843, but were defeated. The war in 1843 was an outcome of a secret purchase of Oruru Taipa by Governor Hobson from Nōpera Panakaria. When the purchase was made known, claimants such as Pororua and others objected. In this war, Pororua was assisted by Honeheke. That's the Honeheke. 35 people were killed, mostly on Nōpera side. In the peace brokered by chiefs and missionaries, the Puheke Karikari Whatiwhiwhi lands were on the Pororua side of the line that divided Pororua and Nōpera's spheres of influence. The war was called Te Wahaka Ionepu. When Pororua's people came to claim their land at Whatiwhiwhi Merita, Timothy gifted it to Nōpera at a meeting at Whatiwhiwhi in 1843. It was Nōpera who gave it to Pororua's people. Rora Kiriwi took Te Hiwai back to Merita from the Whatiwhiwhi settlement and looked after her until her death. She was the mother of Heta Hinaki. This act of compassion was a clear indication that they were whanaunga. Mihi Rewiti was baptized at Parapara in 1866. Mereraina Mihi Rewiti's mother, who was a kahoi or kingi waiawa, had a second marriage to Taha of Ngati Tara, and so Mihi Rewiti Kere had half-brothers and sisters there. My grandmother Wahine Kino also lived there. Mereraina's first husband, Herewini Kere, was from Patukuraha. Before 1895, at least 20 children from Te Whānau Mona went to Parapara Native School, including my grandmother. They walked along Tokerau Beach after church on Sunday, stayed for a week, don't know where they stayed, just, and returned after school on Friday. Now that's really keen to get an education. And we've been like that ever since at Te Whānau Mona. In my time, we went to visit the Taha Whānau at Parapara with my father. Dan or Raniera, Taha also visited Wahine Kino at Waiari. Raniera Bassett is his namesake. As children, we also visited and stayed with the Heta Hinaki Kiriwi and Ted Wright's whānau at Parapara. These whanaunga interactions were a clear indication of our links to those whānau. They are reminiscent of the takawainga custom of our parents' generation, and like takawainga, they are a form of maintaining whānau links. Although there were holiday tangihanga by my generation, tennis and other occasional visits, they were important not only to us as children, but also to our parents and grandparents. In this way, we got to know them and where possible, maintain whānau links. Puheke block, otherwise known as Rangiputa, is the first substantial block of land on the Whatuwhipi Karikari Peninsula that the Crown took an interest in. The hapu most associated with this block are Te Whānau Mona Rorohuri, Ngati Tara, Ngati Whata, Patukoraha, Te Pātū, and Ngai Takoto, as well as others of Te Rarawa, mainly Ngati Moroki, and Te Aupori. That's as at 1859. The gum digging settlement, whānau at Wera were from Ngati Tara. Those are the Heterikis. Matarahurahu, those are the Ritetes. Patukoraha, those are the Tauas, and others. The Ritete whānau Hamiora and Meti Ritete also were there to plant flax at Kaingaroa. This kainga is towards Kareponia on the main road and within Ngati Tara Rohe. My aunt Huhana Reihana, ni Ritete, went to Wera school. The Crown established the grantees for the Puheke block. In 1859, one of the vendors, or at least one of those who received the money, was Hare Matenga, as described in the Northern Minute Book number 1, 1865-1882, March 1877. This transaction was recorded in Turton's deeds. The 15 grantees, according to the deed, were chiefs of Te Rarawa. But officials of the Crown and missionaries thought of all the chiefs as being Te Rarawa. That was the most prominent and powerful iwi at the time. The following were grantees: Te Ahuahu, a brother of Te Ororua of the Kahoi clan. They whakapapa to Mania of Te Whānau Mona. Mumu or Mumu Ngāpipi or Mumu Nōpera. He was Ngāti Moroki Te Rarawa from Mahipara. He could whakapapa to Moroki from Te Whānau Mona Ngati Kahu. Wirimu Kingi, the son of Wharewhare's second wife, also Ngati Moroki and Te Rarawa. Hare Matenga, the father of Emery and chief of Ngai Takoto, Ngai Tamate and Patukoraha. Taipari, another descendant of Wharewhare, with a whakapapa to Hine Te Wai and considered a Te Rarawa chief. Heteraka Kawa, the son of Whaiere and Te Riria, and a Whānau Mona chief. Heteriki. While Heteriki Hinaki was sometimes known as Heteriki, this tupuna was likely to be the Ngati Tara chief of that name, whose descendants claim Ngati Tara as their hapu. These descendants are known as the Wirimu Heteriki Tomas Whānau, who lived at Wera and Lake Ohia. Wirimu Te Waha, he is a Ngati Tara chief. Well, that's what I wrote. He may be known by other names, known to Ngati Tara. Now, I'm told that he wasn't buried at Parapara, but he did live there. Kahoi, also known as Te Ororua, the oldest of the Kahoi clan, father of Ihaka, no issue, and Himi Kahoi, Kingi Waiawa, chief of the Mangati Toki Hapu and ally of Pororua. Karewa, this is one chief I couldn't find anything about. Timothy, this is Timothy Ngatote of Kahahuri, or Kahahuri of Ngati Kahu, Te Whānau Mona and the Te Rorohuri chief. Matthew, this is Matthew Tauhara, chief of Ngati Kahu and Ngai Tōmuri. Matthew had land at Merita. Te Whānau Mona could whakapapa back to Mania. Ngai Tōmuri is a Ngati Kahu whakapapa. All the previously mentioned hapu made customary and economic use of puheke before and after it was sold to the Crown. The spelling and pronunciation of this manga is puheke. Puheke is a short form of te puke or te wheke or muturangi. Muturangi was a tohunga at Hawaii who sent his mokai or pet wheke to guide kupe to Aotearoa. On the way, this wheke had many babies who kept eating the bait of kupe's fishing lines. He killed that wheke and left it at Puheke. This corridor is not exclusive to us in Ngati Kahu or Hokmuri Whenua. The Whatuwhipi Karikari Peninsula, according to Kupe and Mamaru Waka corridor, was an island. Sharks spawned at Waimongo. I was told by Wirimu Ohia of Ngati Ranginui at Tauranga that his tupuna Ohia travelled with Te Kauri of Ngati Kahu, Te Kauri was returning to the north on a visit. Ohia was killed in a battle at a lake in this area. From this point onwards, it became known as Lake Ohia. I remember, what's his name, he had a different version of that, the Kawi Tomas. Te Kauri had gone previously with the Takitimu people to Tauranga. Customary use. Puheke adjourns the sea from Rangaunu to Karikari, and the Tokerau Harbour from Parakarake to Te Pikinga, and past there to Okokori and Aurere. This included the fishing of pioke or school shark in Rangaunu under the leadership of Te Patu, Chief Karaka, in the 19th century. The harbour and the sea adjourns Puheke, and the lakes and wetlands were rich in kaimoana species and tuna, which was harvested seasonally and sustained according to tikanga and whanangatanga, even up to my generation. We used to go there and hinaki eels. Ngati Tara was involved in this customary activity, not only in the Rangaunu Harbour and foreshore, but the Rangiputa to Motutara coast. The whenua of Puheke, however, was swampy and sandy, and many places could have grown kumara in the sandy loams and taro in the swamps. The area was also large enough to rotate mahinga to avoid exhausting the soil. Customary use continued after 1859, regardless of Crown ownership. Tuna were netted with hinaki at Rotokawa, Waimango and the Puheke wetlands. These wetlands in former times were tidal. In my time, this was right up to Matatara Tepe, which is on the boundary between Parakarake and Puheke. Ngati Tara was as involved as other hapu, taking part in the pioke harvest, fishing and netting in the Rangaunu and in the open sea, past Motutara, at the mouth of Rangaunu. Tuangi or cockles were particular to Rangiputa. On the peninsula, that's the only place I could think of where we got them. The kuaka or godwit was also harvested sustainably at Rangaunu and around the coast to Puheke. Prior to the arrival of the shotgun, this money was numerous, and traditional methods of catching them ensured that they were not decimated. My father and his contemporaries harvested kuaka there too. These were along the settlements. These were along the Rangaunu coast and the base of Puheke. They were occupied by hapu such as Ngati Tara. These were Toanga, that's the Wirimu Heteriki whānau, Wairakia, Rangiputa, Kohanga, Kotiatia, Raupo and Motutara Bay. O Tama Whakaruru inland from Toanga was also a papakainga and burial ground of Ngai Tamate, Ngai Takoto, Patukoroha and Ngati Kahu. The Hare Mātinga whānau lived there and at Puheke. Waiporohite was another settlement by this freshwater lake. It was also a gum settlement. There were other papakainga on the Tokerau side from Aurere to Parakarake. Among these were Te Pikinga, which was a place where tuatua and tohero were harvested, roasted, shelled and strung on flax for easy transport. The beach from Okokiri to Te Pikinga had tohero beds. I remember those. You didn't get much tohero there, but there was some. Ngati Tara Te Rurunga had a fishing ground called Kaura Nui of Te Pikinga. This was not a permanent settlement, but a seasonal one. Ngati Tara were among the hapu involved. Witnesses testified to this activity. Waio Traire and Te Kopu o Rangariri were others. The disabled expedition noted long kaharo or nets there, nearly a kilometre long. Ngati Tara and Te Rurunga had easy access to the Tokerau coast and fishing grounds from Aurere along the Tokerau beach. They could also go from Te Pikinga to Rangaunu for the pioke season. All hapu and whānau who lived seasonally at Te Pikinga and Rangiputa included Ngati Tara. It has to be remembered that hapu didn't stay permanently on that land. The change of ownership to the Crown initially made no difference in mana whenua terms or customary use. Hapu still continued fishing and harvesting kaimoana and kuaka after gum digging began. This was often part of that industry and their subsistence economy. Settlements were usually seasonal, and during the fishing season, sharks and other species were sun-dried and smoked, and tuangi gathered. This harvest was taken back to more permanent settlements of the hapu. Kina and paua were harvested between Kohanga and Ngati Tara and Puheke. If you don't believe me about that, you can ask Dawson Tobin. I growled him for doing it. Burial grounds. Whatever the case, battles did not stop customary use. Neither apparently did they stop the Mātenga whānau from living there. It should be remembered that the knowledge of burial places were not always handed down through the generations, and often forgotten when settlements were abandoned, only to be found as koiwi were up to 1859 and the sale to the Crown. The memory of so many burial places would have been impossible to maintain. It also means that where the memory was kept, tapu applied only to the area in which the tupapaka were traditionally buried, not the whole hectare surrounding it. The burial ana or caves along the caves, only the cave was tapu, and a reasonable space before it in order for tapu to be observed. The ana respected and a safe distance maintained. I am aware that, and I'm talking about at least pre-Christian times, I'm aware that Waka Rutene of Ngati Tara was sent to Kohanga to see if a wahi tapu was desecrated there. He was sent because he knew the appropriate tika in the case of desecration. This is another burial place at Waiporohita. Sonny Williams of Ngati Tara had ripped the cover off a burial mound when he was driving a tractor near the site. The remains were of Maori that were buried post-European settlement times. We know that because what was in the burial grounds in the Kaitaha Museum, and bottles and things like bottles and brass buttons, those were found. When he arrived, Waka found that a burial mound had been desecrated near Waiporohita. Sonny Williams of Ngati Tara had ripped the cover off a burial mound when he was driving a tractor near the site. The remains were of Māori that were buried post-European settlement. My nephew Cedric Hina Lawrence was at the exhumation ceremony with Pakiru Papera, another Te Rorohuri Pakeke. A Pakeke from Ngati Tara Wakarutana was also there. Krakia were performed by Paki and Waka, and then the koi were bagged and taken to Takapu at Whatuwhiwhi for burial. They were then buried along the fence line. I've seen that happen at least 3 times in my lifetime. So the tikanga has been well established. As far as koi be lying around the place, you pick them up, you take them up to Takapu if they're from on the peninsula. You don't make a song and dance of it. Take them up there and bury them. Kauri gum. The Crown created Puheke as a gum reserve for the purposes of gum digging. This industry began seriously in the 1880s, and the arrival of Dalmatians for this purpose. Ngati Tara were also involved in this industry at Puheke as any other hapu, especially around Lake Ohia, in the area between Okokori and the Ramp Road and Lake Ohia. The Ngati Tara whānau of the Tomas of Lake Ohia and the Piripi whānau of Okokori dug gum there. A settlement at Werowera was set up by whānau for this purpose. This included the Wirimuheteriki whānau who were local. In conclusion, I've given this evidence because I have knowledge about the Puheke block and the hapu that lived on or near that land. I spent quite a lot of time, not a lifetime yet, still only 75, gathering this mātauranga, and I'm willing to share it to inform the tribunal about the rights and interests of Ngati Tara and Ngati Kahu whānui in that block. Kia ora mai tātou.
Sir, that would end the case, the presentation of evidence for Ngati Tara.
Just pause, Mr. Naden. I think there may be some questions. Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir, just a couple of questions. Kia ora, Mr. Johns. Just picking up on your very last point there. At paragraph 48G of your main document,
G, did you say?
48G. Do you have that?
Yep.
Okay. It says there, I'll go straight to the second line, the negotiators are incapable of getting a settlement with regards to rangiputa lands that is fair to all Ngati Kahu hapu within its legitimate rohi of the claim. It goes on to say, I'm sorry, I think it's necessary to read this out to you.
Well, don't read it, just let him read it. Let Mr. Johns read it himself and then ask your question. Just have a quick look at it.
Well, if you look at that paragraph, it appears that you are reflecting on this map that your council filed today. Is that a reflection of that map?
No, I'm not.
You're not?
I'm not familiar with that.
You haven't seen this?
No.
Okay. Is this a reflection then of the impression that Ngati Tara have that the Rangiputa block is being negotiated by the Runanga for only 5 hapu? Is there a perception of that?
There is a perception of that.
Right.
Yep.
Would it surprise you then to know that that's not the Runanga's intention? That, in fact, the Runanga would like it to be available for all hapu, as you've just said, not just for those 5?
That's what I told them. I said, go down to the wire as Ngati Kahu.
Yes.
That's what I told them.
So you would support that aspiration?
Well, if that's still their intention,
yes.
Yes, I totally with that.
Kia ora. That's all I wanted to ask, sir.
I'll just check with any of the interested parties. No.
Kare anō. Kia ora, Mr. Johns.
Mr. Powell, no. Mr. Shepherd.
Sir, I have one question. Thanks.
Right.
Kia ora, Mr. Johns.
Yeah.
I just wish to refer you to your paragraph 9 of your brief, and it's essentially the last sentence.
Paragraph 9.
Is this his main brief?
Yes, sorry.
Oh, okay, yes.
S20C, the summary that you've just read.
Okay, so it's a summary.
Yes, so it's a summary. Paragraph 9, last line.
Oh, the book. Paragraph
9, the last line of paragraph 9.
Ngati Tara, Ngati Te Rurunga?
Yes, so you mentioned about Te Moiti Ngā Tote gifting to Noipera at a meeting at Whatawhiwhi.
Yes.
And that's in 1843. But you also, sir, and you say the last sentence there, and you footnote it as a reference to your book. And it was Noipera who gave it to Pururua's people.
Yes.
Can you explain who Pururua's people were?
Well, Timothy Ngātote didn't want to be seen as the one out there to give it to Pururua. So he gave it to Nōpera. And he said to Nōpera, you give it to Pururua, or to Pururua's people.
Yes. And so when you say Pururua...
This was the aftermath of the war that they had, yes.
So when you say it's Pururua's people, are you saying that that's Ngāpui?
No. That's the descendants of Mania, the Te Whānau Mona. At Te Whānau Mona, they lived in Whangaroa mainly, outside of the peninsula.
Aye, but
yeah.
I'll put it to you though that Pururua was also of Ngāpui.
Yes.
Of Turi o Te Aho.
Yeah, he was born in Oruru.
Yes. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Can I, Mr. Johns, can I just clarify when you're talking about burial grounds in your brief here? Are you saying there are wahi tapu all over Rangiputa station?
Wherever you see sandhills,
Yes.
assume that they're wahi tapu.
Right.
We didn't have spades and picks and shovels and to go through the clay pan that we got out on the peninsula. So they buried a lot of our tūpāpaka were buried in the sand. It was also part of the bleaching for hāhunga, but they never actually reached that point quite often.
So wahi tapu are bigger than just exactly where koiwi are found. There are bigger areas.
Well, we became Christians, and along with Christianity came cemeteries.
Yes.
Which is what we've got now. And that's the only wahi tapu we consider to be wahi tapu, is the cemeteries.
Right. And you would consider all wahi tapu should go back to the people?
Sorry?
Wahi tapu should belong to the people, to Māori themselves?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
We've got Pākehās buried in our wahi tapu.
All right. Thank you very much.
E kara te Atihana tēnā koe.
Kia ora.
Me o kōrero rangatira i tēnei ahiahi. E hiahi anau kia kōrero Māori tā haua. E pai ne kia koe?
Pai.
Te Atihana e ki ana koe ko koe te kaumātua o Ngati Tara. Me etahi atu marae, taunua mai ki tēnei. I roto i o kōrero, e kōrero ana koe mō te mana o Ngati Tara ki te whenua.
Ngati Tara ki te whenua?
Ai.
Ki Rangiputa?
Ki Rangiputa.
He mana tō rātou i runga i tēnā whenua. Pēnei te whānau mona, me ngā hapu katoa Ngati Tara, a ngā hapu katoa Ngati Kahu, i tēnei rautau.
Koina te ngako o taku pātai. Koe rānake ngā kōrero i kōrero hia e koe ko te whenua. Kai hea koe i roto i ngā tau kume i waenga nui a Ngati Tara me te runanga o Ngati Kahu.
Me kōrero pēnei hoa. Ko au te tahi o ngā trustees i tīmata te runanga nei. Ko au te tangata i haina tia te trust deed. Tuatahi. Tokotoru noi ho mātou i haina i tawara. E tata ngā te pātū ki te patu i a mātou. Ki roto i tō rātou marae. Nā koena taku tautoko i te runanga. Engari e hia te roa, tēnei whātekau marima, a he mutu ai, a he haka uti. Nā, mai i te tīmatanga, tēnei a maki urata, tai mai ki tēnei rā, koenei taku. I've given them the benefit of my doubt. I've always given them the benefit of the doubt. We signed the AOP here, and good. I was buoyed up. Another couple of years, maybe. And then the forum, that was at my suggestion, the forum. And the way we went again, and I thought, oh, good. Ka mutu, toko tori noi ho ngā iwi haka takoto. Ko mātou ana hei na hoane ki te taha. Mo te aha. Mo te aha.
Nō reira, ko tō whakaaro he roa rawa tēnei.
He roa rawa. He roa rawa. Me haka takoto, na koina te rawa. Koina te mea, te rongoa. E hara i te remedies o a te engari te rongoa e rapuana e rātau ko te hakatakatu i te rei krema.
He aha te huarahi whakamua ki a koe?
Mena kāre tai e rātau, me tuku te mana o tēnei krema ki wetahi.
I te mea he roarawa, ne?
Ai. Tui ongia.
Hai. Kia ora koe mo e nā whakautua au. Kia ora koe mo kōrero i tēnei hei.
Kia ora. Finish?